5 million years ago, the earth was still young and restless, a place where silence never lingered for long, and every breath of wind carried the scent of danger. The jungle was a world unto itself, thick and suffocating, with vines that strangled trees and leaves that spread wide enough to shield a man's body from the rain. Towering ferns reached skyward like spears, and colossal mountains smoldered in the distance, coughing smoke into the clouds. The land was not tamed by man, for man was only beginning to stumble out of caves and shadows. It belonged instead to the wild, to the fierce, to the patient hunters who ruled by tooth and claw. In the canopy above, a troop of monkeys clung to life in the only way they knew, by staying together, by keeping their eyes sharp, and by trusting the forest's trembling whispers. Their cries rang out as warning songs, carrying from branch to branch, but not all ears were always listening. Among them was a young monkey, a restless little wanderer. He was small, bright-eyed and unscarred by the harsh law of survival. Curiosity, the kind that often doomed the fragile, pushed him farther from his mother's arms, and closer to the shadows, where predators waited. The young one leapt from vine to vine, squealing with joy at the rhythm of his movement. He hung upside down, twisting his tail into knots with the swinging chords of the jungle. Every sound was play, every shadow a secret waiting to be discovered. The troop called to him, but his spirit was untamed. He drifted farther into the unknown, unknowing that eyes older than stone had already found him. Beneath the carpet of leaves, hidden by the choking undergrowth, the giant python stirred. Its scales rippled like wet stone as it slid silently over mud and root, each movement patient, deliberate, ancient. Its body was thick as the trunk of a young tree, muscles shifting under mottled skin. Its head rose slowly, tongue flicking, tasting the air, tracing the scent of innocence above. This was no ordinary predator. It was a remnant of a time before the monkeys danced in trees, before the apes claimed their strength. A serpent born of silence, it thrived on patience. The boy monkey dangled low, giggling with childish delight, as his tiny fingers reached for fruit hidden deep in the branches. Just beyond, the python's body coiled like a noose, waiting for a neck. The jungle seemed to hold its breath. Leaves stilled, birds stopped their chatter, even the wind refused to move. Far away, through the darker groves of the forest, something stirred with far more power. A shadow against shadows, a beast whose mere presence forced the trees to bend. King Kong, his silver-streaked back glistened in the dim light that broke through the canopy. His massive frame shifted the air itself as he moved, his knuckles dragging furrows through the soil. He was neither fully beast, nor something beyond. He was guardian, storm, and ruler of his domain. He had seen the serpent before. He had heard the cries of prey silenced in its coils. The monkeys, fragile but spirited, were part of his world, and he would not let silence claim them easily. Beside him, darting with nimble grace, came the beauty, a woman of flesh and spirit, primitive yet alive with the spark of defiance. Her skin bore the earth's sunburnt hue, her clothing stitched from hides and leaves, her black hair tangled with feathers and dirt, her hands scarred from battles fought with stone, fire and will. Though she was small beside Kong, she was not lesser. Her courage burned like fire in dry grass, and it had bound her fate to the giant. Where he brought crushing strength, she brought cunning, and together they survived the nightmare that was this land. The troop of monkeys screeched suddenly, their calls sharp and panicked. High above they leapt branch to branch, fleeing from something they could sense, but not stop. The beauty's head snapped toward the sound, her eyes narrowed. Kong halted, nostrils flaring, chest swelling with a deep, thunderous breath. He knew that sound, knew it as surely as he knew the smell of blood on the wind. A young one was in peril. Back in the clearing, the serpent, in one liquid motion, it lunged upward, body rippling, jaws unhinging, to reveal fangs curved and long. The young monkey's eyes widened in a moment of recognition that came too late. The python struck, coils wrapping around the fragile body, dragging him against its crushing strength. He screamed, a piercing cry that ripped through the canopy like fire. The troop answered with panic, their voices a chorus of helpless fear. The scream carried. It tore through trees and rolled across the swampy air until it reached Kong's ear. He froze, then thunder shook the jungle as he began to run. The beauty sprinted beside him, her bare feet thudding against earth, her spear clutched tight in her hand. Every heartbeat was a drum of urgency, every breath a reminder that they were already too late. The jungle came alive in their wake. Birds burst into the sky, reptiles slid into hiding, and smaller beasts fled before the quake of Kong's charge. The ground shuddered with his steps, trees cracking beneath his fists as he shoved them aside. The beauty leapt over roots, swung past vines, and did not falter. The python tightened its grip, the monkey's body squealing in desperation, as bones strained under pressure. The jungle, which had gone silent, now listened to the duel of fate. And somewhere deep inside that moment of terror, in the cry of the young one, the balance of the jungle trembled. It was not just the monkey's life at stake, but the law of strength itself. Kong's roar echoed in the distance, raw and thunderous, while the beauty's eyes flashed with fire. The jungle was about to witness blood, fury and defiance. The silence would be broken, and nothing would remain untouched. The jungle shook as if it sensed the battle about to unfold. The cries of the young monkey pierced the canopy, carried on the damp wind that wove through vines and branches. He writhed helplessly in the merciless coils of the giant python, his small chest tightening with every breath stolen by the serpent's grip. The snake moved steadily, dragging its prey across the leaf-littered floor toward the swamp's dark heart. Mud clung to its scales as its body rippled, endless and coiled with power, each movement deliberate and patient, as if savoring the terror it created. The beauty was the first to reach the clearing. Her chest heaved with the effort of her sprint, sweat and dirt streaking her skin. Her spear, sharpened bone tied to a sturdy branch, trembled in her hand as she raised it. Her eyes locked on the serpent, and her heart pounded, so loud it echoed in her skull. The young monkey's screams tore at her instincts, pulling her forward before thought could catch her. With a cry that was half a roar, half desperation, she hurled the spear. The weapon flew true, slicing through the air, but the python's scales turned it aside with nothing more than a shallow scratch. The serpent turned, its golden eyes catching the flicker of movement, its jaw yawning open to reveal curved fangs, wet with venom and hunger. It struck toward her fast as lightning, the wind of its lunge slapping against her skin. She dove sideways, rolling through the dirt, clutching her arms against her chest, as its head smashed into the trunk of a tree with bone-jarring force. Bark splintered, leaves showered down, but the beast was undeterred. Scrambling to her feet, she climbed, fingers digging into bark, hauling herself up the nearest tree. The python's body slammed against the trunk, making it shudder, and nearly throwing her down. She climbed higher, higher, until she perched on a vine-streaked limb, her chest heaving. The serpent coiled around the base, circling, waiting, its head weaving back and forth like a pendulum. Its hiss filled the clearing, a sound older than memory, older than flame. The young monkey whimpered, his cries weaker now. The python's coils tightened again, drawing life from his body. Panic surged through the beauty, despair clawing at her throat. Alone she could not stop this monster. And then the ground trembled. It began as a low vibration, a rumble beneath the roots. The birds scattered first, shrieking into the darkening sky. Smaller beasts fled, their cries adding to the rising chaos. Trees quivered, and then the sound came deep, thunderous, shattering the quiet. A roar that split the very air. Kong had arrived. The python paused, its body rising slightly, sensing the storm that had come to challenge it. Its coils stilled, its tongue flickered, tasting the fury drawing near. Then the beast came crashing through the undergrowth, and the jungle bent to his wrath. Kong emerged like a living mountain, his black fur slick with sweat and rain, his silver back catching the pale light that pierced the canopy. His chest heaved, his nostrils flared, and his roar shook loose leaves from the tree. His fists pounded against his chest, the sound a war drum that sent shivers through the swamp. The python's gaze locked with his, and for the first time in its long ancient life, the serpent hesitated. But hesitation was brief. With a snap, the python lunged, its coils whipping through the air, striking at Kong's massive arm. It wrapped around his forearm, squeezing with crushing force. Kong roared, swinging the serpent like a whip, slamming it into the ground with a boom that cracked branches. But the python was not so easily broken. Its body rippled with fury, tightening, its strength matching his in terrifying measure. The beauty watched from above, her breath caught in her chest. Kong wrestled the serpent, the ground beneath them tearing as roots snapped, and earth churned. The monkey still hung limp within its coils, life fading with every second. She could see it. If Kong could not break the serpent soon, the little one would be gone. With desperate instinct, she acted. Climbing down, she pulled flint from the pouch at her waist. Stones she had kept from nights of survival. She struck them hard, again and again, sparks spitting into the dry leaves she gathered at her feet. Smoke rose, and with it fire, small but growing. Her eyes narrowed, wild with purpose. She grabbed a burning branch, its flame crackling, and with a scream she hurled it onto the serpent's back. The python hissed, twisting in pain, its scales seared by fire. It did not understand. It thrashed violently, loosening its coils for the first time. Kong seized the opening. With a roar so fierce it rattled the swamp, he pried the coils apart, tearing the young monkey free. The tiny creature gasped, clinging weakly, its chest fluttering with shallow breaths. The beauty rushed forward, gathering the trembling body into her arms, holding it close against her chest. But the battle was not yet won. The serpent coiled again, striking harder, angrier, aiming for Kong's throat. Kong caught it mid-strike, his massive hands gripping its jaws, holding them apart as the python writhed. Its body lashed around him, pulling tight, tighter, until even his ribs groaned under the pressure. He slammed it into the earth again, but its strength seemed endless, drawn from the heart of the swamp itself. The beauty screamed, brandishing another burning branch, waving it close to the serpent's eye. Smoke filled the clearing, the sharp stench of scorched scale choking the air. The serpent recoiled, and Kong unleashed his fury. With muscles straining, his roar tearing the silence apart, he slammed the beast into a boulder, cracking stone, shaking the ground. The python hissed, broken, but not beaten. Its body slid backward, bleeding, its coils limp but not lifeless. With a final shudder, it slithered into the swamp, its eyes glowing in the firelight, a promise of vengeance burning in its retreat. The clearing fell into uneasy quiet. The beauty held the young monkey close, her arms trembling, tears cutting through the dirt on her face. Kong loomed above her, chest heaving, blood dripping from shallow cuts across his arm. The troop of monkeys howled from the treetops, their cries echoing with relief. But the jungle itself seemed to whisper a warning. The serpent had not fallen, it would return. And so the silence remained unbroken, waiting for the final clash, yet to come. Night fell heavy over the jungle, smothering it in a blanket of shadows, broken only by the restless cries of distant beasts. The air was thick with the scent of wet leaves and swamp decay, and the trees loomed like ancient guards, their limbs tangled into a web that blocked the stars. The troop of monkeys had climbed high, their shapes barely visible against the black canopy, their eyes glowing faintly as they huddled together. Their voices were hushed, filled with fear, for they knew the battle was not over. The python's retreat had been no defeat. It had only been a pause. The beauty sat near Kong, her body trembling from exhaustion. The young monkey nestled weakly in her arms, his tiny chest rose and fell with fragile breaths, each one a reminder of how close death had come. She stroked his fur gently, whispering primitive sounds of comfort, though her own heart still thundered with dread. Kong stood nearby, his massive chest heaving, his breath a rumble in the night. His eyes glowed like embers, scanning the darkness, waiting for movement. Every muscle in his colossal body was tensed, every sense sharpened. He knew the serpent was out there, watching. The jungle grew restless. Frogs croaked from the swamp's edge, then fell silent. Insects buzzed, then vanished into sudden stillness. Even the wind seemed to hesitate, as though the very air feared what was coming. Then, without warning, the water stirred. Ripples spread outward, soft at first, then violent. From the swamp's black surface, the python rose once more, its body gleaming wet in the dim light of a flickering fire. Its eyes burned like molten gold, hatred radiating from their depths. The silence shattered with its hiss, a sound that seemed to slither into the bones of every living thing. The beauty tightened her hold on the monkey and staggered to her feet. Her spear was gone, broken in the first clash, but her fire remained. She clutched a burning branch, the flames crackling in her hand, her face lit by its glow. She was small, trembling, yet defiant, her silhouette standing against the monstrous bulk of the serpent. Her heart hammered, but she did not retreat. She could not. The young one in her arms needed her, and Kong, though vast, needed her courage to balance his rage. The python struck. Its head lunged from the water with blinding speed, jaws gaping, venom glistening on curved fang. The beauty braced herself, but before its strike could reach her, Kong intercepted, his roar splitting the night like thunder. He tackled the serpent with a force that shook the earth, their collision sending waves across the swamp. Mud and water exploded into the air as beast and serpent rolled, thrashing, tearing at one another with primal fury. Lightning split the sky, revealing the struggle in brief. Blinding flashes, Kong's fists hammered the serpent's body, each blow breaking trees, each roar shaking the ground. Yet the python was relentless, its coils wrapped around his chest, squeezing tighter, until even the giant groaned in pain. He thrashed, bellowed, smashed the serpent into the mud, but the coils only constricted further. His breath came in ragged bursts, his massive frame trembling under the crushing grip. The beauty screamed his name in primal sound, her voice lost in the storm, but her spirit unbroken. She raced forward, fire in hand, and leapt onto the serpent's back. Her small body clung to the slick, shifting scales, her legs squeezing tight as the monster bucked and writhed. She raised the burning branch high, and with all the strength her body could summon, she plunged it into the serpent's eye. The hiss that followed was deafening, a scream of agony that rattled the swamp. The python whipped its body in violent arcs, sending the beauty crashing against its coils, bruises blooming across her skin. But she clung on, striking again and again, smoke and the stench of burning flesh filling the night. Kong, his chest freed just enough, seized the moment. With one last surge of raw strength, he forced his arms into the serpent's jaws, holding them wide as the beast thrashed and twisted. Muscles tore, blood ran down his arms, but he did not yield. His roar rose like a storm, echoing across the valley, and then, with a sound like thunder snapping the sky in half, he tore the serpent's jaw apart. Bone cracked, flesh ripped, and the python's body went slack. The serpent collapsed into the swamp, its massive form thrashing weakly, then stilling, its coils loosened, its head sinking beneath the dark water. Its reign of terror ended. The swamp swallowed it whole, leaving only ripples and the stench of death behind. The jungle exhaled. The silence that followed was different now, not the silence of dread, but the silence of awe. The monkeys high above howled in triumph, their cries echoing through the night. The young one stirred weakly in the beauty's arms, opening his eyes to the sight of the giant who had saved him. The beauty collapsed to her knees, every ounce of strength drained, the burning branch falling into the mud. She gasped for breath, her body trembling, her skin streaked with blood and ash. Kong bent low, his massive hand curling gently beneath her, lifting her with care that belied his monstrous strength. He cradled her against his chest, her heartbeat fluttering against his fur, his gaze softening with something more than instinct. The young monkey climbed shakily onto a branch above, staring down at them with wide eyes. He chirped weakly, as if thanking them in the only language he knew. The troop echoed his cries, a chorus that filled the night, honoring the guardians who had defied the serpent. Lighting faded, the storm passed, and the jungle settled into uneasy peace. The swamp lay still, the trees swayed gently in the quiet wind, and the fire crackled low. Kong stood like a mountain against the night, the beauty in his arms, the young monkey safe among his kin. The lore of the jungle had been written once more, not only in blood and fury, but in fire, in courage, and in bonds that could not be broken. 5 million years ago, when the earth was young and wild, a beast and a woman stood against the serpent's shadow. Together they proved that even in an age ruled by monsters, guardians could rise, and their story, though untold by man's tongue, lingered in the whispers of the forest, long after the silence returned. Thank you for watching. If this story gripped you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell and share your thoughts in the comments. More epic tales are on the way.